John Bonner, House bailout for states, double dip recession, record war deaths, early puberty, proposal 8 overturned, the Michigan attorney race, another teacher child molester, and the Flint serial killer. All going to be covered here on Third Rail Politics by the Hippie Conservative. All right, hello, fellow Earthlings. How you guys doing today? It's me, the Hippie Conservative, and it's another Wednesday, which means Third Rail Politics has started. 4:30. Let's get it started, man. I got so much stuff, as always, to cover with you guys. Johnny, did you hear about the Flint serial killer? I know you had to, man. This is big news in Flint. We're in Flint, which is and we're on the east side of Flint. Flint is now the second per capita murders in the United States. We hold that title. And apparently some white guy wants to make us first. So watch out, St. Louis, we're after you. And it's gotten kind of scary around here. This guy is our prosecuting attorney here in Genesee County, David Lightning. He says this isn't racially motivated, but to tell you the truth, I don't know how the hell it couldn't be. This guy has killed nothing but black people. He killed one really dark Hispanic guy, but that apparently could be confused with black. He's up to 20 now, and he killed 5. He stabbed every one of them. A friend of mine was talking about this, and I'm not really sure if this was his spin on it, but he seemed to think that this had something to do with drug dealings originally, but it's looking like it's absolutely not. And now the guy, one of the things that was going around here in Flint is a lot of people said we're trying to make a racial connotation out of it. They were saying that that the reason the Flint Police Department and everybody else wasn't responding to this right away was because of the race factor, that they were just allowing this white guy to kill off the black people. But one of our police officers that we have at the university campus where I work was telling me that actually some of the people that he was talking about in the crimes unit were saying that they were afraid the guy was going to flee if they came out with it and they were trying to catch the guy. They thought they felt like they were right on him because they had a decent description of the guy and his car and everything, and they thought they could get on it. And sure enough, as soon as they put out a picture of it and started going public with it, the guy ran. And now he's been in Leesburg, West Virginia, and in Toledo, Ohio, and he's killed a couple of people. Or stabbed a couple of people. I don't think he killed anybody else yet. But the guy comes up to people and asks directions. And they show it. The interesting thing is and I'm not a very big guy. I don't know if you guys can get that on the internet, but I'm not a very big guy. I'm 5'8". I'm 165 pounds, which isn't very big. And this guy was about 200, 210, and about 6 foot tall. So he's considerably bigger than me. But the picture that they had proved something to me, okay? It proved to me that black people have the same problem with white people that white people have with black people. And that is that every time I see a description of a black guy, it's like the generic description of a black guy. I mean, they show the sketch of the guy, and I'm going, holy crap, I know 80 black guys that look just like that. Well, this was the most generic-looking picture of a white guy you ever saw. He had the little Fu Manchu mustache exactly like I have. The guy had light-colored hair and was wearing a baseball cap. I mean, it could have been 80 people here in the city of Flint. My first thought was that the dude looked a lot like me. So, you guys know me, and I got a little bit of mischief in me. So I spent the whole day asking black people for directions. And it was seriously freaking them out. No, I'm just kidding. Because that was the MO for the guy. But no, I didn't do that. But this guy apparently has fled. And he bumped it up 5 in here in Flint. And watch out, St. Louis, because it looks like we're going to be closing in on you. We have enough problems here in the city of Flint with people getting murdered. And I've brought this up before. I talked about how most of them are centered in one little area of town. And we've talked about the culture and everything. So I don't think we really need to hash all that. So let's move on. But I thought the Flint serial killer. We don't get a serial killer every day, and I thought I should bring it up just because it is big news and it is here in Flint. And we don't get it. We don't get serial killers every day. We just get the regular kind of killer. Okay, John Bonner. Now this guy's the U.S. Republican minority leader in the House, and this guy has actually stolen my thunder. Now, for those of you that listened a couple of shows ago, I came out against part of the 14th Amendment. And the part of it is part that covers naturalization, which is how you become a U.S. citizen. It's absolutely bizarre. And John Boehner is actually saying the same thing. But the big problem is when you want to change in the amendments to the Constitution, you have to have a 2/3 vote to carry it. And that's never going to happen. The Democrats are never going to go for it. I've laid this out before, but with the Democrats, when it comes to the Hispanic vote, it's all about votes. It really is as simple as that when you come down to politics, is that whatever works, whether it's creating single mothers, whether it's creating dependency, whether it's social programs, whether it's tax breaks, whether it's state tax, it doesn't really matter. Whatever it is, it's always, always, always about votes. That's all it really matters. These people, these disgusting human beings that we put into our Senate, and frankly, I'd flush every frickin' one of them out of there. But these people they'd put us all in slavery. They'd do anything that they could if it meant that they got reelected. That's all that matters to them. They don't care if it destroys families. They don't care if it destroys the fabric of the United States of America. They don't care about any of that. All they care about is getting reelected. Now, one of the more funny things that's going on right now in the House is that they're having a series of ethics probes, and maybe you guys have heard of this, but they had we've got a couple of different ethics probes that are going on. And one of them is this Charlie Rangel, and he's got 13 different counts against him for he owned a house in the Dominican Republic that he wasn't claiming. He's got some gifts. It's the normal senator thing, and Charlie Rangel's been there for 40 years, so this is a major senator, and he's going to get our major House rep. I'm sorry, but he's going to get booted out, and he's fighting it all the way because he doesn't actually feel. I mean, I think the guy has been institutionalized by being in the House that long. He's starting to sound like it's his right to steal. Now, one of the ironic things is about this whole thing is Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House for the U.S. House of Representatives, when she came in, she said she was going to, quote unquote, drain the swamp. And what she meant by that is that there's a lot of shady ethical problems going on. Now, I'll give her credit for it, that she actually did drain the swamp to see what kind of ethical problems there was inside the House. Got to give her credit for that, okay? But I don't think that she thought that the bodies she was going to find in the swamp were the bodies that she ended up finding, because there's 8 people in Congress right now that in the House that are all members of the Congressional Black Caucus. 8 of them. And the Congressional Black Caucus is coming out now and saying that that she's doing some kind of a witch hunt. This is Democrats against Democrats, by the way. The Democrats are controlling the ethics panel, and they've actually found out that there's, I mean, literally, all the people that they brought up on charges, Maxine Waters, John Conyers, and others, every single one of them are black, and this is I mean, I don't have any problem with it anyway. As far as I'm concerned. If the Congressional Black Caucus is right, and this is some kind of a witch hunt that's focusing on black people, that's not an excuse in my world to let the people that have already been caught for the ethics violations go. No. Far, far, far from it. If you got more white people, drag them out too. In fact, let's really drain the swamp, Nancy, of every single person that's in the House that's doing any of these ethical lapses. I don't give a damn if they're Hispanic, Asian, a Jew. I don't give it doesn't not matter to me. Every single one of them should be thrown out. In fact, everybody always likes their incumbent. I understand that. But frankly, it's gotten to the point, people, where I don't believe any of these people are in our favor. I work a regular sort of job. I'm a blue-collar worker. I wore my blue collar today. See this? This is because I actually, by the way, I actually forgot my tie-dyed shirt today, guys, so I apologize. I had to wear my corporate shirt today. And as you see, I had to cover up my corporate logo. This is how sad. Somebody that at the university saw me walking around with a smile on my face and thought to themselves, what can we do to wipe the smile off this guy's face? And then they came up with it. We'll make him wear a corporate shirt. And it almost worked, guys. It almost worked. Almost. But you didn't quite get me. But I'm a blue-collar worker. And I'm sure a lot of you guys feel the exact same way that I do. I just don't feel like, as a blue-collar worker, as a regular Joe, as the kind of guy that gets up every morning at 5:30, trudges his punk ass into work and does his job and pays his taxes and doesn't cheat, doesn't sell drugs, doesn't do anything else, that I'm not represented by anybody, certainly not by these idiots in Congress at all. So my opinion is, let's throw every frickin' one of them out. Let's just throw everybody out. Now, if you're a Democrat, this is actually not a bad plan for you, because this is kind of weird. And I know there's some people out there that are saying, well, wait a minute, what about the good ones? I'll be frank, people. I do not ever admire politicians. I don't care. Some of them do good work for you, but the fact of the matter is, they are weasels, front to back. Every single one of them are weasels. Throw them all out. You know, a lot of them are lawyers. For some reason, we got under the impression that we need lawyers in Congress. You know, we have CEOs that are heading up major corporations. They don't have to be lawyers. People on the top that run businesses hire lawyers. You can hire a lawyer. Open a phone book. There's thousands of them. We don't need to hire a lawyer so that they can cover their own ass. Let them hire a lawyer. Let's hire somebody that actually can that has some sympathies toward people like me and you. I feel abandoned by my government anymore. I feel like they dog me out all the time. That the Republicans are pretty much representing all the rich people, and the Democrats are pretty much representing all the dependent people, and I feel like a fucking a Chinese handcuff. I'm being screwed at both ends. And I'm sorry to be that graphic, but the truth of the matter is, I don't feel like anybody represents me, and I don't think I'm alone with this. I think when I talk to people on the street, a lot of people have that same feeling, that they're not being represented. And one of the things that I think the average person would feel about this is that, like John Bonner says, that we should repeal the section of the 14th Amendment that says that if two illegal aliens come into your country, neither one of them are even supposed to be here, and they have a child, that child is automatically a U.S. citizen. That child is called an anchor child, because now you can't get rid of the illegal alien family, because for the simple reason is that, you know, you're going to be breaking up a family. This kid's a U.S. citizen. We can't throw out the kid. The kid can't be deported. We can't force him out. So you're going to break up a family and put the kid into some kind of foster care program? Oh, you're a cruel and heartless bastard. So the answer is that they should never be legal to begin with. Picture that two people broke into your house. Me and my wife break into your house. My wife's pregnant. And during the course of breaking into your house, while we're in your house, my wife drops the kid. Now that's your kid? This is insane. Now, this will never happen, like I said, because you got to have a 2/3 vote, and it'll never happen. And I'm not really a big fan of John Bonner, but the fact of the matter is, this is crazy. This was created way back in 1814, and for what reason? I mean, back then, almost everybody wasn't born in this country, and there was hardly any immigration. I mean, they didn't even care. They kind of opened up the doors. It didn't really matter. Everybody that was coming here, there was no government programs. There was no Social Security. There was no unemployment benefits. There was no food stamps. They weren't giving anybody any damn thing, and they actually needed people, and they wanted anybody to come in. The situation has changed dramatically, and we have to change along with that. This is no diss against the Hispanic people. You know, I love the Hispanic people. I think they're great people. I do think, and I've said before, that you guys are being badly manipulated by the Democratic Party. And if you aren't careful and you keep following their example, you're going to end up with your culture as screwed up as what they did to the African Americans. And seriously, they did. There's some serious systemic prejudice that happened there. Okay. Double dip recession. Now, some of you guys have been hearing this word, and I got to tell you right now, the stock market, John, do you know what the stock market ended up dropping? It was over 200 points down last time I looked.
I saw like 222, 245 between the two.
Yeah, it took a serious hit today. And part of that's because of the job market. Part of it's because of consumer spending. Just about everything is not looking good. The problem is that they're artificially stimulating the economy. They keep trying to pump money into it. You can't just keep taking out loans in order to fix the problem. It's like me taking out a loan for $10,000 and then telling my wife I got a new job. You know, look, I'm giving myself a regular check out of the bank. Well, for A, I created debt. B, I don't really have a job. It's an artificially created job. And C, it's going to run out eventually. I got to take out another loan again and again and again. Eventually, that's not going to work. That's like having an apartment complex on fire, and instead of putting out the fire, you just keep moving the families to different houses, different apartments. Well, you know, that's not a problem, man. Let's move to this apartment. Oh, that one catches on fire. Oh, we'll move to this one. Yeah, eventually you're going to run out of apartments, and then you're going to have to deal with the fact that the apartment complex is on fire. Our country is on fire, people. It's on fire, and we have to do something. There's going to have to be some serious austerity measures, which austerity means that you're going to raise taxes, raise revenues, or cut the spending, one or the other. But austerity is the act of bringing yourself in line with your own budget, and we talk about it a lot, and we give it some mouth play, but then we turn around and we hand out more and more money. What's going to happen is eventually they're going to have to stop handing out this money, and when they do, there's going to be another dip. A lot of Wall Street's not full of stupid people. They see the writing on the wall. They know when it's just census workers. They know when it's artificially subsidized GM sales of the Chevy Volt, whatever. They know that this is falling apart. They were originally, they had a little, I would call it irrational exuberance right now, that they thought, okay, well, the average recession lasts about 2 years. We're coming on the outside of it, and generally speaking, you start experiencing growth that's on the order of 6 or 7% a year. Now we're seeing growth that's like 2%, 3%, and it's very lazy growth. And that's lazy growth, by the way, that's also subsidized. So those factors are not playing out positively on Wall Street. Wall Street's looking at this. We're like, we've only bounced back from our high of 14,000. We've only bounced back from the 65 low down to 10,000 right now. That's not getting even your money back that you lost. We're not even reaching neutral yet, much less reaching the kind of growth that we usually experience after having a huge downturn like that.
Like just figuring cost of living and the level of taxation currently, and probably then projected going higher for all these programs, you're seriously in the red zone for all of this.
Absolutely, John. Absolutely. You make a great point. And you add on to that the rise in Social Security. And the more part of the problem is the more prolonged the unemployment is, the more likely that somebody that might have waited till they were 65 to retire is now joining the Social Security rolls at 62. People that don't have anywhere else to go decide to fake mental illnesses or whatever so they can get on SSDI. That's been rising about 17% a year, which is outrageous. Then you have less revenue from everything. And this is another point. Keep in mind that we lost all this revenue because the stock market dropped 14,000 to 10,000. Everybody's 401k shrank, so that's less money that's invested in the market. So that's less revenues that you got from dividends, less revenues that you got from people that had a deferred tax that they were going to pay when they take their money out, even if they take out loans or everything else. Did you have lower property values, and that means every estate that's sold, every piece of property that's sold that somebody would have gotten $100,000 for, say a couple of years ago, that they now get $60,000 for or $70,000 for. That means less money that goes to the local governments. And then the way they're propping all this up too is by creating more and more of these bills that are they're frankly bailouts. And we're in serious danger. I talked to one of our major economists at the university where I worked the other day, and one of the great things about having the job that I got, I have questions, and I go right to people that are the experts in the field. Some of them have been on CNN, some have been on MSNBC, and because of the nature of my job, I know all of them. And I was talking to one of the major economists at my university, and he privately told me that he's feeling about 70% chance of a double dip recession. That means we're going to fall backwards again. And I frankly don't think that we're going to be able to absorb this as well as what we did the first time. Each time consumer confidence will fall.
Mike Spencer, who does a show on Tom Sumner's show, I'm kind of boosting another show here, but
well, that's okay. Yeah, Tom's great, and you guys didn't get a chance to check out Tom. Check him out because it's a great show.
Especially the Wednesday shows when he has the financial expert Michael Spencer in, and he's been predicting there's a guy named Harry Dent who's wrote books on this stuff, and he foresaw this economic disaster we're in almost 12, 14 years ago.
Yeah, several people did, but they got shunned.
And 18 or the 18 of the 20 some or 19 of the some, the predictions he made has all come true about what is going to happen in the economy. And he bases on demographics. And the baby boomers are no longer making big purchases, and they're like waning, and their numbers.
MasterCard posted every purchase was down.
Right. So what happens is he said we're going to get much worse before we get any better. And he says that they project that the people are followers of Dent. So it's probably 11, 12 years out before we actually start seeing. And then that's going to be a boom cycle because all these kids born now are going to be in the thing buying. But until then, it's going to be basically just swimming like dog paddling.
The Keynesian model, I think, is a failure. And Kenzie was an economist that had a sort of a demand side economics. And
He was trying to bridge the gap between. He wasn't a socialist, wasn't a capitalist, but he tried to bridge between the two. He believed in government investment. That's what you always hear. And that was the one who came up with that, John Maynard Keynes. Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't hold up, and especially when people point to FDR as a great example of how it did work, and it can't work because. Well, for one thing, when FDR, a lot of people misinterpret what FDR did. Okay, first off, you had real unemployment that was close to 50%. So when you had government programs, you weren't in much danger of displacing the private sector jobs because you had such massive unemployment. Secondly, there was no programs that FDR did that gave effing money away. Not one. They were work programs. MPA was a work project. They put people to work. And by the way, they made the equivalent of minimum wage when they did it. And as soon as they got the opportunity to get a better job, they went to it, which is why we don't have the work program anymore. It got phased out. It was a stopgap. You know, John brought up a great little quote. Lifeboats are for saving people, not for living in. And I love that quote. I've been using that. By the way, John, I've been using that a lot lately.
From Ayn Rand.
Hey, huh?
That's from Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand, the philosopher Ayn Rand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no. She wrote that. I think it's either Capitalism, the Unknown Idea, or I forget which book it was, but that's from her books. Yeah.
Well, that's a great quote.
She's a great.
Well, see, you should have took it. I was giving it to you. That's the kind of guy John is, though. John will never take credit for something if he didn't actually do it. Okay, so this leads us to the House bailout that they just passed, and this is another piece of shit legislation, guys. I mean, and here's the I got a fan blowing, so all my stuff keeps blowing all around, but I have to. It's like 1,000,000 degrees in here. The title or the banner here on the Detroit News: Federal aid bill saves 4,700 teachers' jobs in Michigan. You did not save the jobs. What you did is postpone the inevitable. Yes, I mean, if you want to take the broadest term, you save their job for a year or until they run out of money again. You can't just go pump money into it. And one of the interesting things was half of the money that they pumped into Michigan, which is $698 they did for education and Medicaid, and half of the money they gave. Remember, Medicare is for the older people. Medicaid is for the other side. It's mostly for the people that are Social Security, disability, and shit like that. They were $300+ million short in Michigan for that. That's what I was illustrating. The amount of people that are going on SSDI because they don't really have no choice. I mean, they're trying to find a way to survive. People will do whatever they can. Drowning people will pull a guy that's trying to save them down into the water. And that's the same thing. When people get desperate, they'll do anything. I can't blame the people for doing what they have to do to try to survive. Everybody has their own unique situation. I see poor people all the time. I know people that are in dire situations. But, however, the government sets up these things. The government is the one that's making it possible. And to just take a bunch of money and to ship it over and say, okay, look, Michigan, I know that you have a problem, that you have so many Medicaid recipients that and your budget is so bad that you're $350 million in the red, but here's a check just to make it better without having any austerity measures to try to rectify the problem is just postponing the problem. That's not going to fix the problem. It's just going to postpone it. And the more of these checks, every time they write that check, our national debt goes up, our credit goes down. And you got a point where it's going to balloon up all over. One of the things that happened in Russia was that when the Wall Street and everybody else that was investing in Wall Street and are investing in Russia, that was buying the ruble and everything else, when they started realizing that they were hiding a lot of their debt in the municipalities by supporting them through the centralized government, when they were doing that, when they first started realizing that, when all the people that were investing in it in the world market, when they were trading IMF and in the World Bank and everybody else, and how they were trading the dollar, their ruble against the dollar on Wall Street, they started realizing that there was far more debt than they ever realized. They started seeing some of the municipalities and the amount of debt that they were carrying and how each and every one of them, much like Michigan, California, New York, and every other state that's in a dire strait, Nevada, they started looking at they're going to start looking at all of them and they're going to realize there's far more debt, people, far more debt than just the 13 outrageous trillion that we have in the national debt. It's worse than that. We have over $3 billion in Michigan alone in money that we bought from or borrowed from the federal government that's sitting in an IOU somewhere. And Michigan says, oh, we're all right. We got the money. We can pay the bills. Meanwhile, they try to claim that against the money. The federal government tries to claim that against the money that they have by saying, well, we got this, and then counting the IOU. They're like looking in their wallet, and they got a fistful of IOUs and a $10 bill. And they count the $10 bill plus the IOUs to try to claim that's money that they have. But they don't have it. They have an IOU from somebody that can't pay it because they never changed their methods. This is crazy. And to tout this as a jobs bill, it's not a jobs bill. It's a bailout. It's a bailout of states that just won't come to terms with the fact that they either have to raise taxes or they have to cut back on their spending. One or the other. I don't think Obama has the cojones to make the tough decisions that he needs to make with this. Now, it's entirely possible that they've decided to kick that this is all political, and that makes me sick to my stomach, because they're just going to kick the can down the road, and they feel, well, the Republicans will probably win in November, and that stands a good possibility. My guess right now is that it's going to be between 7 and 10 Senate seats and between 35 and 50 seats in the House. I mean, I'm way ahead here in the game, way ahead in the game. But, because things can change dramatically. You never know what's going to happen. And so I'm not going to make that as a sound prediction. But there are people that are saying, well, maybe we should I believe, in the Democratic Party, they're saying maybe we should just go ahead and hold these people off with these bailouts and everything else. We get to a certain point, and the Republicans take over the House and the Senate. They're in charge. We'll try to do we're trying to save your jobs, but the evil Republicans won't let us. And then the next thing you know, you've got the blame on the Republicans for the austerity measures that they really honestly don't have no choice, unless the Republicans do the same shitty thing and kick it further down the road. But every time they kick it down the road, the problem is just growing and growing and growing and get worse. At a certain point, it's a balloon market. It's just like what happened to the housing market. It's just like what happened to the .com market. There comes a point where you can't sustain it anymore. It becomes such an illusion, so bad that people no longer believe the illusion. They look at it and go, wait a minute, that house isn't worth $200,000. They're going to look at the United States and go, wait a minute, the dollar isn't worth a damn dollar. Other countries, the ones like Germany that have actual austerity measures, that actually know how to keep a good fiscal house. And never forget, you got China that's carrying $1 trillion worth of our debt. That we only have $800 billion worth of actual currency that's out there floating, folks. About $500 billion that's actually floating in the United States. And all they have to do is say tomorrow, we're cashing in half of that, and we're going to have no choice but to print the money to pay it. If you print that money is just like a stock. It's just like a stock. If a company has 100,000 shares of a stock, and that 100,000 is the divided worth of that company, and then that company turns around without increasing the worth of the company and prints another $100,000, and you're holding that stock, unless you're an idiot, you have to know that stock is worth half as much. And that's what Wall Street does when they devalue the stocks. They say, wait a minute, they didn't do anything to increase their value. They printed off 200,000 extra shares of the stock. That stock now falls. It's not worth as much at 200,000 as it was worth at 100,000, because it's 200,000 shares. And that dollar bill that you've got in your pocket is stock in this country right now. And if you print off more of it, it's worth less. And then you have inflation and possibly hyperinflation. These are all bad. I can't ring this bell loud enough. I'm telling you, this is the main reason why I'm here. And, I'm going to take a brief second here, guys. And my wife always tells me don't do this, but I want to do a little bit of patting myself on the back on a couple things. Okay, now I told you guys that in the governor's race here in Michigan that Virg Monero would win, and I was right about that. I told you guys that Pete Hoekstra was in the lead, but to watch for Rick Snyder, because I thought he was going to make a late surge. I was right on that. I told you guys that last week that Proposal 8 in California was going to be overturned. And I was right about that. In fact, if you look back on every single thing, now I know I've made a couple of errors. I called the guy from BP. I was listening to one of the show last week. I called him Hanson instead of Hayward. Okay. Those are the kind of minor mistakes that I'm going to make, because I'm doing this all off the cuff. I bring a little bit in.
He didn't mind. He's going to put the heat off him for a bit.
He sent me an actual thank you card with a bunch of roses. I don't know what the hell that was about. But He's probably happy. You know, hoping the rest of the left stream media will pick up on that and start mispronouncing his name. He'll be as happy to be forgotten as that Captain Smith was that drove the Valdez. He's more than happy. Yeah, right now he's like if he was listening to the show, and I doubt he is, but if he is, he's with his fifth liquor, of course. He's like, damn it, I thought they forgot about me. That hippie fucking is bringing it up again. Okay, I'm having too much fun with myself here. And also another thing that I brought up, and like I said, this is a little back. I'm gonna pull my arm out of socket, patting myself on the back. I was telling you guys about how the left stream media was ignoring the Afghan record death counts that were in July or in June, and I told you guys that they wouldn't be able to ignore it in July. That it was going to reach a point where the anti-war people weren't going to be able to take it no more, and you can only have so many records in a row. And sure enough, just like I told you, the left stream media, who did their best to ignore June, you didn't hear anything about the June record deaths. But then when the July record deaths come, like I predicted, they started talking about it, didn't they? And that's just a little self backpack. I just want to back patting. There we go. Just wanted you guys to know that yeah, you know, I get some stuff right. I mean, it's pretty amazing sometimes. Okay, now the Proposal 8 being overturned. Let's just pat that one around a little bit. Now, for those of you guys that listen to Bill O'Reilly, for instance, is one of the guys that talk about it a lot, the Ninth Circuit Court in California is a freaking joke. It's a joke. These guys are put in there by a bunch of liberals. They represent a liberal area, San Francisco. And when they every time that there's anything that has to do with gay marriage or anything else, they punt themselves they punt the whole case into the Ninth Circuit Court, which is commonly referred to as the Ninth Circus Court, because it has no validity at all. This place is, they have no honor. They're not making any of their decisions based on anything that is judicial. They're making it all on their own ideology. That's it. Okay, and I read this out. This is out of I don't know where it is because I forgot to put it on there. In a major victory for gay rights activists, this is the way that the left stream media is portraying this. A major victory. How the hell is it a major victory when you punted it into a court that even some jerk that's in the basement on the east side of Flint can tell you in advance what the decision is going to be? That's how obvious it is. And it's a major victory as if they actually achieved something? They didn't achieve anything.
Wasn't the court the one that also said that gun rights were not the individual right but a collective right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they have a series. These people. After a 5-month wait, Ninth Circuit District Court Judge Vaughn Walker, we'll get into that guy one of these days, offered a 136-page decision. Wow, it takes 136 pages to say we're liberal ideologues and we're going to go with whatever the gay agenda wants. It takes 136 pages. I guess it takes 136 pages to cover it up. In the case of Perry versus Schwarzenegger, and by the way, Arnold Schwarzenegger offered the defense attorney that he was in there. He gave him no direction. The guy came in there. The guy was the defense attorney, the attorney general, who was from California, who was actually doing the defense of Proposal 8, which, by the way, was voted in by the voters two separate times. Two separate times they voted this in, and then this guy comes up, and his defense was called one witness, and the witness that came up says that he thought that it was a civil rights violation for gay people to be denied gay marriage. This is the guy that's supposedly defending the state of California and the voters of California. You people in California, if there's anybody that's listening from California, you should be utterly and completely outraged that your vote means absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that anything that you guys pass has to go to the jury, to the judges in the Ninth Circuit Court. Let me ask you something, people in California. Why have votes? Why have a vote? Because the Ninth Circuit Court is going to tell you what laws you can and cannot have based on their ideology. It has nothing to do with what's legal. It has nothing to do with what you determine by the facts that were given to you before you stepped in that voting booth. None of that makes any damn difference. Twice you guys voted for this. Twice. And it went in front of a court, and them guys stood there and said, no, that you're idiots, that you don't deserve it. Okay. Let me get down to some of the major points that this guy made on it. Oh. And of course, there's nothing in this whole article but them grandstanding about what a major victory this was. And they say in the interim, Walker's ruling gave gay rights activists a second occasion to rejoice in less than a month. In July, a federal judge in Massachusetts, another judge, ruled that the Federal Defense of Marriage Act, which defines marriage as a one man and a one woman, was also unconstitutional. By the way, the Federal Defense of Marriage Act, this is a state that's nullifying law by the federal government. Now, there's no consistency whatsoever in these people because you can nullify the law. Personally, I think that the federal law trumps it in certain cases, and this being one of them. But they'll turn around and say that they can force health care down your throat, and the states aren't allowed to nullify, which to me is a contradiction. Okay. And Arnold Schwarzenegger said this decision is by no means California's first milestone or our last on America's road to equality and freedom for all people. Equality. That's an interesting point there, Arnold. What part of it is it that makes this an equal? I can't marry a guy. My wife can't marry a girl. What part of it? Is it based on love? I don't understand that. I can't marry anybody that I love. I can marry my sister. I can marry my mother. I can marry my dog. I can marry 3 people if I love all 3 of them. What part of this is inconsistent and demonstrates inequity? What part of it? All right. Okay. Now and they say the LBGT, which is a lesbian, bisexual, gay, and transgender legal organization, says it's not only a home run, it's a grand slam. It's not a grand slam if you position yourself on third base to start with. Okay, here's some of the major. In deciding the cases, Walker offered a variety of findings that may be as important as ruling himself, as if this guy's the final word. Which, by the way, he is not the final word. And I predict this eventually will go to the Supreme Court. That the conservatives will push it in the Supreme Court, and it'll all come down to Anthony Kennedy. And I honestly believe that the end ruling on this will be that the ban on gay marriage will be upheld by all the states. That the Supreme Court will not go against the will of the people, will not go against the states. I mean, it would be, I think it would be a major upheaval. You can't go on a 5-4 ruling on something this controversial to overturn the will of the people. It has to be, in order to overturn the will of the people, you have to have a major representation. That's too close for them. And it would come down to Anthony Kennedy. And when you overturn the will of the people, Anthony Kennedy is not going to take, he's not that liberal a guy. He's not going to take that kind of, he's actually a very conservative guy. He's not going to take that kind of beef. I think that the gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, whatever else people are very worried that in the end this is going to end up in the Supreme Court. And if they do, I believe they'll lose. Okay, here's some of the other findings he had. Sexual orientation is commonly discussed as a characteristic of an individual. Sexual orientation is fundamental to a person's identity. All right, let's stop here because I have a problem with that. You people that are identifying yourself by your sexuality, seriously, you got a problem all the way around. I'm a heterosexual. I do not define myself by my heterosexuality. I define myself by my character, by my love for my fellow man, by my consistency, by my logic, by my honesty. I define myself in a lot of ways, but I do not define myself by my sexuality. Most of the decent gay people that I know, and I know a ton of them, and I do not define themselves strictly as being a gay man or a gay woman. They define themselves as being a person, a father, a mother, or a friend, whatever it is that they define themselves. That is not the definitive trait. I disagree with him. It's a factor. It's a factor in the way you might define yourself in passing. I'm a bisexual man, but that is by no means the only way that I define myself. And you shouldn't define yourself by that. And that's an especially important point to women who are now being told that sexuality is all that they got to offer. I fit the definition of a feminist because I do not believe that women should be defined by how big their tits are or how big their ass is or how good looking they are or how well their legs look or anything else. Women, you have more to offer the world. You should not defend yourself. You should not define yourself in that way. Even if you're really good looking, it doesn't really matter. Don't you believe to yourself that you have something else to offer the world than your own sexuality? That's it? That's what they want to reduce you to? That doesn't sound like feminism to me. But this is what they got in California because they want you defined by your sexuality. Okay. Individuals do not generally choose their sexual orientation. No credible evidence suggests a finding that an individual may, through conscious decision, therapeutic intervention, or any other method, change his or her sexual orientation. Yes, I will agree with that general statement, but I'm going to add something to it. But you can sure as hell fake it. You can sure as hell fake it. If I tell you people right now that I am a bisexual man, do you have a choice but to believe me? Can you disprove it? What are you going to do to disprove it? How? Are you going to come and peer in my window? Even if you catch me having sex with my wife, how do you know I didn't have sex with a guy, I don't know, maybe a week ago? How do you know? You can't prove that. It's unprovable. If you offer some kind of special privilege to people, for whatever reason, health benefits might come to mind, benefits and taxes, other benefits that may come with it. I don't know. You know, I mean, it depends on the state, depends on where you're talking. There's a big rush within certain universities for people to get a boyfriend or whatever, to get them, because they wouldn't deny them benefits. This was a big problem. They would go out and get a boyfriend that may or may not be their boyfriend or their girlfriend, just so they can get them covered by their health care. Now, you might, go ahead, John.
The movie, I'm now pronouncing Chuck and Larry, came out a few years ago. That's about the same scenario. Adam Sandler's in it and Kevin James.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same thing, yeah.
Absolutely. And it's absolutely true that people do that. And, you know, the funny part about it is, okay, now a lot of you people might be thinking to yourself, well, what does that matter to us, hippie? I mean, come on. So what? They bone the man a little bit. Here's what happens is when you buy insurance, when I buy insurance for myself, it's like $450 for me. And that's an additional $250 for my wife. $450, $250. You see, there's a difference there, right? And that's because the initial guy, the initial payer, whoever's on the program, it's not as much to add on. But the cost doesn't change. So how does an actuary figure, and actuaries are the people that figure out what makes money in insurance, how do they figure out how they can balance that out? By increasing the primary person on the insurance's fee. So more, in short, more people that get added on is a secondary, the more the cost for the primary. So that means if some single guy has to pay more because they're adding on to their people. They're adding on their gay lovers or whatever that may or may not be married. Which is one of the reasons why we should have civil unions, by the way. So that way, at least we can put an end to that. So we can say, okay, if you have a civil union, you sign papers that say you have, you know, mutual property rights and all the things that go along with being married, you're willing to make that commitment, then we can use you as a secondary. But to try to say that it's just anybody that's a boyfriend, girlfriend, well, that would be a problem. So my only point there is that people, the bigger point, don't get lost on the smaller point. The bigger point is that people most definitely can fake their sexual orientation. It's not like pretending I'm black, okay? I can definitely fake my sexual orientation. So I think he's full of shit there. Now, does that mean that I am actually gay or actually not gay? No, I can't change that. That part I can't change. But I can definitely change faking it. Okay, same-sex couples are identical to opposite-sex couples in the characteristics relevant to the ability to form successful marital unions. Like opposite-sex couples, same-sex couples have happy, satisfying relationships and form deep emotional bonds and strong commitments to their partner. Standardized measures of relationship satisfaction, relationship adjustment, and love do not differ depending on whether a couple is same-sex or opposite-sex. I have zero problem with that statement.
They just want to add another dimension to that whole relationship thing, the agony of divorce. So, I mean...
well, they're going to have to suffer that one.
See, half your crap, go to somebody else.
Yeah. Well, guys, join in on that one. You're going to love that. I'm going to tell you right now. Okay, I don't have any problem with that one, though. I'm gonna just go right over that one because I don't have a single problem with that. Marrying a person of the opposite sex is an unrealistic option for gay and lesbian individuals. All right. Well, okay. I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, it's unrealistic. I don't know. I mean, I've heard that there are some people that do try it. I've heard some people that have been successful all their lives and they've been just sort of closeted. I don't know that I would want anybody to actually do that. I would actually recommend against that because I think it's hard on the other person who might honestly love you and be trying to convert you and blah, blah, blah. Please don't do that. If you're gay, don't do that. I mean, really, I'm kind of against that. But I mean, I'll just say that that's pretty much okay. I'm not going to argue with that guy. I'm not going to argue with him on that. Same-sex couples receive the same tangible and intangible benefits from marriage that opposite-sex couples do. No. No, they do not. You know why? You know why I say that? Because there's a difference in raising children. And that it comes down to my primary argument against gay marriage, which is cross-gender parenting. We have tons of data. I brought it in here. I mean, it's 5 pages thick. I can bring it in again if you guys want. You know, I'm actually gonna do something for you guys. I'm already started it. I'm gonna form a website, and the website is going to be Third Rail Politics with Hippie Conservative, and all it's going to have is links to everything that I bring up. So that way you guys can go on it and check out my research so you can see it personally. And it'll also have all the problems it have from having an absentee father, a non-biological father, you know, or not having the biological father living in the home. The increased sexuality, the emotional strain, depression, everything else. That's just not the same. Two lesbians raising a male child doesn't have the male influence. Don't give me the crap about having some guy come in and out or some male influence from the outside. It's not the same, guys. It's not even the same. The research that they've got is not even the same when it's a father living in the house. It's a stepfather because the child doesn't identify, if he knows, doesn't identify with that male as being his biological father. He doesn't see himself in the mirror the same way that he would see his own father. Now, sometimes that's a negative. Absolutely. But when we're talking about these things, we have to assume a norm. You don't just tear apart the marriage. Change the perimeters of what a traditional marriage is. And then to a point where you know it can't survive, where there's cheating, where there's lying, where there's all these other things that are the primary tenets of marriage, supposedly, faithfulness and honesty, and then turn around and after you've destroyed that part of it, then say marriage is a piece of shit anyway. That's what they keep doing to Christianity. That's what they want to do to, you know, conservative thought, fiscal conservative thought, everything else. You can't change the perimeters on it and then turn around and say that it's a piece of crap. Now, it's traditional marriage is what I'm talking about. And when I'm talking about traditional marriage, I'm talking about the kind of marriage that me and my wife have. Where we've been married 31 years. We raised our kids. We try to be honest with each other. We keep our relationship within the two of us. We don't have a bunch of what I call hover buds. For you guys that have these guys or girls that are hanging around, you know, well, you know, he's my friend and I've had him all my life and I go out to dinner with him and everything else. And then one day, me and my husband have a fight and I made an inappropriate comment and the next thing you know, we're laughing and rolling around in bed fucking each other. That's what happens. When you expose yourself, I'm as weak as anybody else. I'm a heterosexual male. I'm attracted to females. If I put myself in a situation with a girl that I'm physically attracted to, and you know, over a course of a long period of time, this hover bud, who might be usually is relatively attracted to me for one way or another, even if on a friendship scale, maybe a couple beers, a couple martinis, something like that. The next thing you know, we make an inappropriate action that never goes away. It doesn't erase. It's just like the stuff you do in a marriage is just like the stuff you put online. You can delete it, but it never goes away. It's always there, and it's going to come back up.
Another thing I find is that when I was working at the university too, that a lot of women would reveal all the secrets about what they had against their husband, but never tell the husband about it. And I always was labeling that as kind of a form of infidelity in its own right. That, you know, the problems they're having with this individual they're supposed to be sworn to, the individual doesn't know anything about it.
Dishonesty leads. I call it moral limbo, that you keep going lower. And, you know, you start out by doing something that you know is wrong, and the next thing you know, you're lying a little bit. Oh, I just lie about, you know, the scratch on the car. The next thing you know, I lied about just going to lunch with this guy. The next thing you know, I'm lying about a little bit of money that I got stashed. Next thing you know, you're lying about every damn thing. It really honestly does go that way, that you end up in a slippery. You should be always striving to be a better person. You shouldn't be striving to perform moral limbo to see how low I can go or what I can get away with. That's just not a formula for having a successful relationship. Okay, the availability of domestic partnership does not provide gay and lesbians with a status equivalent to marriage. It could. It absolutely could. Because the cultural meaning of marriage and its associated benefits are intentionally withheld from same-sex couples and domestic partnerships. The cultural meaning of marriage is a man and a woman. So, if you change the perimeters, you no longer have it. I can call this a Coke, but it's not a Coke, okay? It's still a drink. But just by changing it into that and making it more culturally acceptable means that I've changed the definition of a Coke. Now it's not a Coke. It's something else. You can call it something else, just like a civil right. You can have a civil right that extends to gay people, that we can create a brand new civil right that says that I can marry a guy, but you're creating something new. You're not just you can't just change one thing into another. You're creating a brand new civil right. That's a completely different issue. Okay, permitting same-sex couples to marry will not affect the number of opposite-sex couples who marry, divorce, cohabitate, have children outside of marriage, or otherwise affect the stability of opposite-sex marriage. I think that's conjecture. I don't know if it will. I don't know if it won't. But I can't really say anything that's theoretic. We have not applied gay marriage across the board to an entire nation and made it acceptable. We haven't done it yet. So how's this guy know? I mean, he's a hell of a more of a soothsayer and a prophet than I could ever be. He's a Pythia of apparently gay marriage. I don't know how he does it. Now, I want to say something. There is another facet of this that I'm a little bit worried about when it comes to the gay marriage thing. 20 years ago, when I was a kid, okay, it was socially unacceptable for anybody to say that they supported gay marriage or to say they supported gay people in general. Through our culture, through media, through the sitcoms you watch, the programs you watch, the Rolling Stone magazine, New York Times, every single part of the media has now made it to a point, and I work in a major university, so I'm around a lot of young people, has now made it a point, gotten to a point where you're a pariah if you're against gay marriage. I mean, culturally, you would be ostracized by your peers if you oppose it. Now, let's throw the whole gay marriage thing right out the window. Okay, let's pretend we're not even talking about that. What we've done is we've allowed the culture, the media, to change a perception, for good or bad. Okay, let's even say that it's good. These people now know that they have that power, that they can change a perception from an absolute negative 20 years ago to an absolute positive here 20 years later. Now, minus the gay marriage thing, erase that from your mind for a second. Just throw it right out. And just think about the media's power for a minute. Do you seriously want your media to be that powerful? Isn't it a little bit frightening that they can change your opinion about anything? That they can make it culturally acceptable to to have sex with a dog? Or, and I'm not making no comparison between gay and having sex with a dog. I'm just saying that if they know that they can take anything that's aberrant behavior right now, culturally, and change it, and they, being the media, being Hollywood, have that kind of power, and they've demonstrated that kind of power, are you not a little bit afraid of that power? Shouldn't you be? What if they decided to say, okay, you know what? This is really kind of cool, having all this power. Let's see if we can get them to kill Jews. Let's see if we can get them to kill blacks. Let's see if we can get them to hate, I don't know, people with blue eyes. Let's see what we can make them do. Jim Morrison famously would study on how to do crowd control and how to push people into groupthink. And he would try to incite riots on purpose just to demonstrate his power because he was fascinated by the fact that he could influence people that much. The media is much the same way. We should be very worried about handing that kind of unregulated, unrestricted power to people to form your opinions for you to a point where you could be sitting in a classroom and you could be adamantly opposed to something like gay marriage and be afraid to stand up because the media has made that so hard to stand up against. And it's prevalent everywhere in the media. Just take a look at some of the shows that they're watching. I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, shouldn't you be a little bit, once again, it doesn't have anything to do with gay marriage. That's a separate issue, a completely separate issue. But what I'm talking about is the power of the media to influence thought. That I find that a little bit frightening. That's why people, we always need to have dissent. We always need, you might not like some guy standing up in your classroom and saying, I don't like gay marriage, and this is the reason why. But as a champion of free speech and as a member of a country that embraces dissent, whether it's anti-war, pro-war, anti-abortion, whatever it is, always allow these people. That's what I stand for. Always allow these people to have their voice, no matter how much you dislike it. No matter how much. You know, I never liked sitting in the classes that the university would make me go to where they would admonish white people as being, white males in particular, as being the bane of all humanity. And they would carry on for 20 minutes. And I didn't like any of it. I didn't like sitting there and listening to it. I really honestly felt like it was cleverly disguised racism. However, I'll still allow them to do that. As long as they're never saying, you know, kill Whitey, then I'll defend that. Okay, I want to talk about one more thing really quick. John just gave me the 5 minutes. Amazing how fast this has gone. I love doing this with you guys. I looked in the DNR manual. I'm a hunter. I love hunting. And once again, gray wolf hunting in Michigan is not going to happen. Okay? The wolves were relisted on a technicality. And this is part of, I call these the weasel huggers. Okay? This is PETA. and I call them weasel huggers for obvious reasons, because I think animal lovers, it doesn't do justice, because I'm an animal lover and I have nothing in common with these people. They don't understand, in my opinion, they don't understand predator-prey relationships. They don't understand the wilderness. They read it in a book. They pet their kitty cat and they think they know about bears up in the UP. That's just not the way it goes, okay? The gray wolf is once again listed as an endangered species in Michigan. The gray wolf is listed as an endangered species in Michigan. Let me just run this past you guys for a little bit. Okay? We went from in 1980 having zero wolves. Zero wolves. We have 520 wolves in Michigan right now. At one point in time, during a very severe weather, or a very severe winter, the predation by wolves was so bad, they estimate they may have killed 80% of all the wolves in this one county, or all the deer in this one county. It's a population that's out of control. There is only one predator that manages his prey. That's man. We're the predator that sets seasons. We're the predator that stops predation in an area if it starts impacting it too much. We're a predator that makes sure that we don't take fawns. We're a predator that makes sure that we only take bucks with a balance of does to create balanced populations. For these people, these weasel huggers, to think that they can then take and usurp our responsibility as the number one predator, and that's what we are, because we're not separate from nature. People, we are part of nature. Everything that we do impacts nature. To turn around and say that you're going to take wolves that you originally, these weasel huggers, originally said that they wanted 360 wolves to have an established population, have it raised to 520, and then refuse to take them off the endangered species list, even though we passed the goals that they set, because they don't want Lassie hunted. That's based on emotion. That's not based on science. All you people that are atheists, that say that you want science, not theory in your classrooms, you should be the same people that should be on my side with this. We need to hunt the wolf. Hunt the wolf. And for us to say that we're not because of emotions, that's not proper conservation. That's not proper management. We need to hunt the wolves and hold their population down. And maybe I'll get into that a little bit more the next time that I'm on. Okay, another hour has gone by. You people have wasted another hour of your life listening to a madcap hippie. I can't believe you've done that. And we went through a lot of stuff. I had a blast. I want to thank John Wilson and Steve Myers for being crazy enough to put me on the air. I want to shout out to the Genesee County Compassion Club. And I want to shout out to the guy that I hope will be Michigan's next Attorney General, which is David Lighton. This guy supports medical marijuana, and I think that all of us ought to support him too. He's a Democrat here in Genesee County. He'll be running for the Attorney General of Michigan. And come this November, let's get behind this guy. We don't need to be setting the clock backwards. 800,000 people a year in prison for marijuana. Enough's enough. We can make some revenue on this. We can figure out other ways. Thank you, each and every one of you guys, for having the audacity to sit here and listen. You guys are brave souls. Let's protect this country. Let's protect our right to dissent. Let's protect our Constitution. Okay? And I am the Hippie Conservative. This has been Third Rail Politics, and I'm signing off. Thank you guys once.